All right, welcome back to our third lesson of our ninth unit, Unit 9, Authority Challenge. This is topic 9.3, Ideas on the Move. This is a little bit shorter of a topic as we're just kind of seeing how this spreads outside of Italy to the rest of Europe. So our goal today is for you to be able to explain how trade networks and the printing press spread Renaissance ideas and made traditional authority more vulnerable. Okay, where we left off so far, the Renaissance, these ideas emerged first in Italian city-states across the Italian peninsula. We looked at the reasons for this in our first lesson, topic 9.1, and it's in this moment this concept called humanism developed, emphasizing classical learning, observation, and the human potential. This is all things that we studied in topic 9.2 in class. These ideas, again, remember, did not reject religion outright. In fact, they worked within the religious ecosystem. They just changed how people thought about knowledge and the authority of who got to decide what was true and what wasn't. The key problem here is that, well, these ideas are very, very powerful. They're limited right now to Italy, which gives them limited impact, right? If they're not spreading outside this localized peninsula, it's not really going to drastically change history. For this change to really matter, these ideas have to break out of the Italian peninsula and spread across Europe and then eventually the rest of the world. We're going to see how that happens, or at least how it really begins to happen in Northern Europe in this lesson. Okay, so you probably remember from earlier lessons that trade networks don't just move things, they're pathways for ideas to spread. And by this time of the late Middle Ages, during the Renaissance, Europe is reconnected by all these land and water based trade routes that's really reconnecting different kingdoms and cultures in Europe. This trade network allows merchants, bankers, and just people traveling in general out of curiosity to be able to move between the different cities and different regions, right? So you got the Holy Roman Empire, but they're able to trade is connecting to people in the New Kingdom of France, connecting people to the Kingdom of England and Scotland up here. The New Kingdom of Spain and Portugal are being connected to, Sardinia, Corsica, Genoa, the Papal States, the Kingdom of Naples, the Venice Republic, the Florence Republic, Greece, all the way even to the Ottoman Empire over here, and then cities across northern Africa. And again, remember, trade isn't just moving things and resources, it's moving books, artwork, and new ways of thinking. And that's important as humanism is about to break out of the Italian city-states to the rest of Europe. So trade creates repeated contact between cultures. It's not just one person traveling once and then never coming back. Trade networks mean people are constantly moving back and forth. And because of that constant movement back and forth, ideas are spread as unintended consequences of this economic exchange, as they're sharing ideas back and forth and back and forth and building upon each other. And now, right, Italy had all these city-states left over from the Roman Empire, but now you're seeing these other towns and cities really growing and coming to their own across northern and western Europe long after the Roman Empire has fallen, and Europe's kind of bouncing back. These cities are concentrating wealth, literacy, skilled labor, and patronage, wealthy people who are willing to pay for people to, develop these ideas. Merchants and professionals want practical knowledge. They want knowledge in mathematics, geography, history, and rhetoric. These are all things that help them understand the world and give them an advantage in competition. This urban life rewards this concept, right? Education is now outside rural monasteries where monks are just kind of by themselves studying nature and studying the Bible and studying the few books they have. Education is now broken free of that tiny ecosystem and is spreading across these urban centers. And learning isn't just tied to religion anymore, it's tied to real world problems, not theology, theology being the study of religion. People who are learning and studying in these universities, in these towns and villages and cities, they want to understand how the world works, and they're sharing ideas with each other. These ideas are then being spread via trade networks, so ideas are kind of bouncing back and forth between all these different urban areas. At the same time, before we had printing presses, knowledge was pretty easy to control. Books were copied by hand, and they took a very long time to make a single copy, right? The Christian Bible, for instance, would take at least 3 months to copy by hand. So the church and these rural monasteries where religious monks were kind of just like hanging out, studying and worshiping, they controlled what books existed, who had access to them, and how the meaning behind these writings were actually interpreted. So the structural feature of medieval society, really medieval authority, meant that knowledge was scarce and hard to come by, and authority depended on controlling access to that authority. Again, a theme that we saw in the Mayan civilization during the Mayan classical period in a couple units back. This all changes with a brand new invention called the printing press. Now, this basic concept of pressing, carved letters and words into ink and then onto paper in order to create copies, the Chinese have been doing this for a while. But really, what we see in this period in Europe is it's taken to an industrial level, so mass production. Movable type, that is, these blocks with the letters on it that you can then change to make any countless number of combination of words, allows books to be produced much faster and much cheaper. The more books that are available means more people can learn to read. Literacy rates start to expand as more and more people begin to read beyond just the clergy and elites in society. So you no longer had to be high up in the church or very wealthy in order to get access to a lot of knowledge. Classical texts, religious writings, and new ideas that are coming into Europe thanks to the Reconquista, the Crusades, the fall of the Byzantine Empire, these are now being mass-produced, copied, shared, read, and studied, leading to new ideas. This means these ideas become harder to control as more and more people have easier access to them. And so authority that's based on having exclusive control over knowledge becomes vulnerable when more people can get educated and learn for themselves. Now, it's important to note what printing did not do. Printing did not immediately overthrow the church. Most printed material was actually still religious, with the most popular book ever printed, even to this day, is the Christian Bible. And many humanists still remain devout Christians, right? They didn't give up their faith in God. They didn't give up their faith in the Christian religion at all. What does change, though, is that challenges to authority become much harder to contain as more people are reading the Bible for themselves or reading humanist ideas and other ideas for themselves, and, well, that starts to them questioning certain things. These competing interpretations of the Bible also begin to circulate widely, meaning the church's control over religion, control over knowledge, this is starting to kind of crack and fall apart. And remember, all of Western European society during the medieval period is based on this religious foundation. And so if the religious foundation starts to kind of crack, that's going to cause a lot of other problems in society. So soon after the Renaissance kind of kicks off here in Italy, it spreads quickly across these trade routes into the Holy Roman Empire, into France, and into England, and even into Spain. We call this the Northern Renaissance. And these ideas of the Renaissance get adapted to meet local conditions outside of the Italian peninsula. Northern thinkers start to focus on things like education, morality, social reform, and religious improvement, how to actually improve the religious faith and worship of Christianity. It's at this time William Shakespeare is writing his plays over here in England, and his plays have a very human focus, right? He's very much a humanist. He's writing plays not about religious themes, but he's writing Macbeth, Romeo and Juliet, Othello, these Julius Caesar, right? These are stories about historical figures. These are stories about real people, love, hate, anger, revenge, star-crossed lovers. These are very human things. So they're not religious focused. They're focused on studying what's like to be human, human nature, history. But at the same time, there's a lot of continuity in this Northern Renaissance movement because faith is still a main focus of everyone's life. While people are trying to study in the Northern Renaissance how to improve religion, they're using humanist methods to do that. And again, belief still remains central to everyone's life. It's what changes is interpretation of beliefs widened, with the Catholic Church not being the only one claiming sole authority to interpret the Bible and Christian beliefs. This structural vulnerability that we identified in the previous unit, it's starting to really grow, and the cracks are getting more dangerous, right? Church authority really rests on the idea that the Catholic Church and the Pope control all religious knowledge and accepted interpretations of religious beliefs. But with trade and printing weakening that monopoly, more people begin to read, compare different texts, and question interpretations of the Bible. You can see how this is a real threat to the power of the Catholic Church. But not just the Catholic Church, but the kings as well, as the feudal system that has kind of been the bedrock of Europe since the collapse of the Roman Empire is also reliant on religious authority. But the key thing here is the humanist movement in the Renaissance, it doesn't destroy authority, it puts authority up for debate. It can be questioned. And the churches and the kings are going to have to figure out how they're going to react. Are they going to try to destroy this and keep control of all this knowledge again and destroy any challengers to it? Or are they going to find a way to adapt, much the same way that the church originally starts to adapt to the Renaissance by also being patrons of the arts? So control it, destroy the change, try to control the change, adapt with the change. The Catholic Church and the kings have some choices to make here. And so why does all this matter, right? These ideas are now spreading faster than institutions can regulate them. So the old systems, which relied on control of knowledge, are having trouble adapting to this new faster moving world, which is actually a common theme when knowledge develops and skills and technology develops faster than the old systems can adapt to them. That can be very destabilizing, right? Think about that as we see the emergence of AI around the world. Tension is growing between central authority, local interpretation, and individual conscience. Right, the kings and the popes, they really want to have this control over everything, but locally, with people have access to knowledge of their own now, so they're starting to question why a king or a pope isn't in charge, and instead of just doing what they're told, people are starting to think more of this thing called their conscience, that is, making up their minds for themselves about what is right, what is wrong. And when your power relies on you controlling how people think and what the people believe, individual conscience is a real threat to that authority. This tension, it doesn't end with the Renaissance. It pushed Europe toward its next major conflict, which we're going to be studying in coming lessons. And in this conflict, we're going to see how these old systems react to these challenges to their authority. Okay, that's it. Told you it was a short one today. Write that goal again. Find 3 facts, write them out for yourself. Do not copy and paste, guys. And if you're listening to this, do not copy and paste. Type it out. It'll help you remember it, help you do better. And then what is that one question you still have about this topic, or really anything that we've been studying, to help you better understand what we're learning and this whole theme, this whole semester, the whole narrative. All right, until we see you in class again, have a great one.